So you've done this before. So just start with, what's your name? What do you do? And then I'll
What do I do?
Oh, you tell me.
Absolutely frightening. Do you want me to barrel it?
You can barrel it if you want.
Just ice it? I mean, you're a TV guy now.
Chat.
Like, I assume I got to up my game. Last time I did this, you were just a comedian. And now,
mate, look how far we've come.
TV presenter, radio host, comedian.
Mostly comedian. Back to that.
The other stuff's taking a backseat. I'm Daniel Muggleton, and I am a comedian also, but with no other jobs.
No slashes.
No, zero slashes.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Crowdworkcast. My name's Andrew Barnett. Thanks so much for joining me. My guest today, Daniel Muggleton, a bloke I've known for well over 10 years now. Very funny guy, good guy to hang out with. So, this was a real fun chat. Dan was actually on this podcast back in its first iteration before we did video, and he just came and sat in the office at my old house, and we had a good chat. So if you want to, if you enjoy this and want to check that out, go check that out. I will say you probably don't need to have checked that out to enjoy this. There's no real reference to it or anything. It's not a sequel. You're not going to understand if you didn't see the first one. So don't worry about that. Now, Daniel has a brand new YouTube special out. It is called White and Wrong. It's on the 800 Pound Gorilla YouTube channel. I think you can also get to it through his YouTube channel. So if you search Daniel Muggleton Comedy on YouTube, you'll find that. He's also got a previous comedy special there. So if you enjoy his comedy, check it all out. It's all good stuff. Now, if you want to find him on Facebook, you can find him there. He's Daniel Muggleton Comedy on Facebook. Send him a message, abuse him, or tell him you like him. Who am I to tell you what to do? And if you want to give him a follow on Instagram or TikTok, he is at Dan Muggleton on both of those. So he's always putting good stuff out. So check him out, give him a follow, like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. He also has a podcast called Flog Cabin, which he does with two other Sydney comedians. So if you think you'd like to hear more of him chatting on podcasts, check that one out. It's called Flog Cabin. That's about all I need to promote for him, so I should promote some stuff for myself. Once again, Sydney Comedy Festival's coming up, April 27th and 28th. I will be at the Wildflower Wine Bar at the Enmore Theatre. So if you'd like to come along and see me, I'd love to see you there. The show's called Barney Lives. Due to a typo, it was supposed to be Barney Live, but what are you going to do? So, Barney Lives, come see that. That'll be a lot of fun. If you want to give me a follow, Andrew Barnett Comedy on Instagram, Andrew Barnett Comedy on Facebook, Andrew Barnett Comedy on TikTok. And if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you are watching it on YouTube, come find my YouTube channel. Once again, Andrew Barnett Comedy. Like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. If you want to leave a review for the podcast, that all helps too. But other than that, I'm kind of sick of promoting stuff. So let's just rip into this episode. This is my chat with Daniel Muggleton.
I think I'm one of the few. I mean, I guess I have a podcast now. But yes. To describe me as a podcaster, that I find deeply upsetting. I think if you're like just a podcaster, that's kind of crook. I think if like you are someone with a podcast about your other real job, that's okay.
Yeah.
You know?
What do you? So how long have you been going now? Because you started, I think in my mind you were just a couple of years, not that far. Like at the time, it felt like. It felt like. You know how like when you first start, someone who starts 6 months after you, you're like, oh, new guy, eh?
Yeah.
And now as time goes on, you're like, yeah, we started at the same time.
Pretty much.
That window shrinks. When did you start?
I know that exact thing you're talking about. I started in 2013, I think you'd say, like in Sydney.
Yeah.
Like I started in New York. I did like a couple of things over there just because I was like visiting my girlfriend at the time, and we'd gone through a long distance relationship up until that point, and then we were brought together. And, didn't really like each other. But the trip was booked in. So it's just like, we gotta go. We gotta give it a try. And so, she just kind of ignored me. So I did open mics in New York.
Okay.
Like, I actually did the thing that other people, I was being ignored by women. So I got into comedy. But, like, mine was my significant other.
You weren't being ignored by women generally. You were being ignored by women specifically.
Yes.
A woman.
Yes, this one. I was in a relationship with. So, the ideal situation.
That hurts a little more than just being generally ignored.
I think so, because like just the amount of time spent on back then it was Skype. Like this wasn't even like FaceTime. This is like old school Skype, just fighting. Have you ever done long distance?
No, not for any period of time, no.
No, for some reason in my uni days, like there was just a fair whack of long distance, and it's fighting on Zoom. Like there's like just at hours that don't work for either of you. So like it's either super late for you or super and super early for them or reversed, and you're just fighting. But you got to stay on the thing because you don't know when you're going to talk to them again.
Really?
So it's just 90 minutes, like 45 of silence, and you're just kind of locked in. And then occasionally you get to masturbate together. Like that's basically it.
Wow.
That's long distance relationships.
So yeah, it's the percentage of fighting to masturbation though. Fighting vastly outweighs.
Vastly outweighs, and the masturbation way less silent. Like, you know, that's kind of the joy of it all. But yeah, it was that was my experience of New York. It
Wow.
just kind of like finishing like 6 months of that with in person over Christmas, over New Year's, and then doing open mics.
So in New York City or New York State?
New York City.
New York City. So
Yeah.
Manhattan, where are we staying?
We're in Brooklyn, Greenpoint, which still has my
Oh my
favorite donut
God.
place ever.
You look like you could be Brooklyn Greenpoint. There's a lot of dots being joined.
What, are you suggesting that I resemble a hipster?
Yes.
Well, in fact, this is before I wore glasses.
Yes.
And the moustache was like more of a seasonal moustache. Not a Movember. I'm not one of those fucking pretenders, but like it was seasonal. It was occasional. Whereas now it's a requirement. My wife's like, I don't like you without it.
Yeah. I look weird with it. I always have sort of either some sort of facial hair, but I don't have a top lip.
No.
I've been cursed with zero top lip. And
Yeah.
It gets worse as I smile. Like it just is like. I remember when I was at Fox Sports and I had the beard, and then we were filming these promos for the upcoming year, and the theme of the promo. Oh no, it was for Retro Round. So we all had to
Okay.
do this promo for Retro Round. We were all different people from
The past.
the past, and I forget what the era, but it was the goodies was what me, the professor, and Hindy were all part of the goodies. So they had us riding on a three bike, but I had to be.
I know what the goodies are.
Well-
Don't do that thing where you get real sad.
Look it up. I had to be. I think it was Tim Brooke Taylor, who had like the big mutton chops, and it was almost the reverse goatee, where he was shaved down the middle,
Yes.
and then big mutton chops.
The chops.
And
yeah.
I shaved for it so it'd look real, like look authentic. And I remember I was sitting in the makeup chair, and I said, I never really shaved my face. So the makeup lady, why not? I said, I don't have a top lip. She goes, oh, no one noticed. Like, that's in your head. No one will know. And literally, I got out, I walked around the corner, and Nathan Highmarsh, from a distance, looks at me and goes, what the fuck happened to your top lip? And I'm like, did you just overhear our conversation? Like, are you messing with me? He was like, no.
No.
What happened to your top lip?
I'm genuinely concerned
And
about your
yeah.
lack of top lip.
He used to, it was like his favorite thing. He was so fascinated with it. And because I'd get nervous and smile, then it'd just go away completely.
Okay. I've never had anyone who's been told to smile less. It's like, you look creepy when you smile, Barney.
Yeah.
Don't be doing that.
Yeah, it's just like your mouth ends. There's no lip. There's no. It's like a cliff instead of a beach at the ocean. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's no swimming.
Yeah.
You're not getting down there.
No.
No way. Okay. Yeah, I shaved it. The last time I shaved it, well, one was like for charity, like over lockdown, and it's like no one saw you, who gave a shit.
Yeah.
But it was my wife's sister's wedding, and her grandfather hadn't met me yet. And he's a 90-something, very Australian man. So he thinks if you have a moustache, it's
Yeah, like
because you're
something.
gay or ethnic.
Yep.
And he can't decide which of those is worse. So
Yeah.
they were like, we want you to...
And it's strike 1 and 2 for you, just quietly.
What do you do? I'm a comedian. Well, that's strike 3. You're out.
Yeah,
I'm gonna murder you. You're not marrying my granddaughter. But yeah, so they were genuinely like, you have to shave it.
Oh,
He
wow.
he won't like you. He doesn't like anybody. You have to get rid of it for the wedding.
That's fantastic.
And then I rocked up to like where we're all staying with it still there. Like I shaved the morning of the wedding. So he saw it and was like, nice to meet you. Like he was real gruff. And then I shaved it. And then at the wedding, his exact words were, Oh, you got rid of that shit on your face.
Yes.
All for you, mate.
Yep.
It's so you like me.
Yeah, I thought it made me look like a gay ethnic bloke, so
Yeah.
I just got rid of it.
And now I look like a straight white bloke, which you'll love.
Yeah. I don't know if you've heard our branding. The tide is turned on the straight white man.
Yeah.
But my other thing is like when I grow, so I always generally have a beard, or just mostly I'm just not shaven, like
A bit of shadow.
3-day growth sort of a guy. But the other thing is there's been periods where I've had just the mustache, which I don't mind. But I remember when I shaved my beard and left the mustache I forget, it was a couple of years ago now. I came downstairs and my wife just looks at me, she goes, what is on your face? And I said, oh, do you like it? And she was like, I'm actually not feeling well, and that's making it worse. Like, wow. And I just said to her, I said, think of anything if I ever said anything even slightly like that to you about your physical appearance, how much trouble I'd be in. She goes, yeah, no, it's not helping.
Yeah, logic also isn't welcome here.
Yeah, no, the kids liked it though. My youngest bloke called it my Ron Swanson mustache. He
That's
thought
nice.
it was awesome.
I think, I feel like bros get around the moustache a lot more than women in general. Like other men are like, that's great, whereas women are generally repulsed.
Yeah.
But like the disparity in like what you could say about the appearance based on gender is crazy. Like Yazoo, I run the running joke with.
Yeah.
I was doing the sound check the other week, and she said to me, "Oh, are you showing more forehead than usual?"
Showing more forehead than you.
My business partner, my friend, showing more forehead.
That's so specific. That's like a insecurity you would never have unless
It's the gentlest.
someone mentioned it to you.
It's the gentlest you're balding I've ever received. And I'm just like, let's flip this, Yaz. What if I'm like, oh, you wearing more fabric than usual? Oink, oink. What the fuck? Like, that'd be insanely rude. But she's like, I just thought it was a styling choice. I'm like, to show more forehead.
Yeah, wait. You know what the world needs? More forehead.
More forehead. They're going to be like, hey, this guy must be clever. Look at all that forehead.
Yeah.
There's a lot of brain in there.
Yeah, it's bursting out the top. There is a definite sort of double standard in that, especially within personal relationships. Like I just wouldn't like the stuff. Yeah, that my wife will happily honest. Mind you, my wife's one of those people. She will ask the awkward question, or just she's not one just to ignore the elephant in the room.
Okay. With you or like anybody?
With anybody.
Anybody,
I remember
okay.
Years ago we had one of our sons was seen a specialist, and this particular specialist had a limp from she had a limp.
Yeah.
And so she goes through the first time we met, and she goes and she's real nice. She goes, and any other questions? And my wife just goes, sorry to ask, like, why do you walk like that? And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And the specialist, another woman, just goes, oh my God, and tells her this whole story about when she was a baby. You know how they do the hip click thing when
Yes.
newborn babies. So she was born in Eastern Europe, and they didn't do that. There wasn't a
Right,
thing
she
that
got
they'd screwed.
displaced.
And so she had hip dysplasia and then she's since had surgery and stuff and had it fixed. But it was one of those ones where I was like, yeah, I noticed she walked funny too, but I would never dare ask the question. She goes, no, I was curious. I wasn't being mean about it. I was just curious. And that is exactly, like I think she read the person really well.
Yes.
Because like the doctor was just like, oh yeah, no, of course you're curious about this. Here's what, and then explained it. And because it was a thing to do with kids, and she obviously is a specialist who deals with kids, was quite happy to explain all that and explain this is the science behind why we do that. And because where I was born, they didn't do that, and this is one of that. But I'm like, oh my God, just the balls to throw that out there.
But like, I mean, I do agree your wife's read that, because if she's working with kids are going to ask.
Oh yeah,
That's what kids do. Kids ask. There's no
yeah,
like.
But like at the time, what would that be? 32-year-old women should.
They should know better.
Yeah.
They should have been through this. But yeah, weirdly, my wife had the hip thing.
Yeah.
That's why you were talking about that. I'm like, hey, she had it as a kid. She got the had to
Oh,
get like
really?
a
Had the
like a brace. Yeah.
Yeah, my niece had that recently too, and I was like, yeah,
More
no, that's
common than
important.
you
That's
think.
not a gimmick.
Yeah. But it's weird because I learned this. If they don't pick it up early, you got to have surgery. If they pick it up early, it's just like you wear 2 nappies and that's done.
Yeah,
Like it's like the easiest thing to solve ever if they pick it up.
yeah. There's all that stuff. It's what you realize when like you have like babies especially, is they're so like everything's so like I remember there was one thing with one of our sons with his feet, and the doctor's like, oh yeah, that he looks like he could have turned feet that could get pigeon toes. But what you can do is you just every night before you like when you get them out of the bath, if you dry them, just massage the feet like this, and it tends to straighten out. I'm like, are you like? They're not made of clay, but it turns out they kind of are. You can like they're still
Just
pretty
move 'em.
malleable at that. At that stage.
That's so
It's
funny.
like they get funny shaped heads from sleeping different ways. Like you're like, oh, all this stuff, like they are still, a baby is still somewhat malleable.
All this stuff terrifies me to like no extent because like we're trying to have the kids and stuff, and all the stories about like they have like a hole in their head at like one
Oh
point.
yeah, the fontanelle.
And you're just like, no,
Yeah.
don't have a head hole.
I don't know why God just gives it. Yeah, here you go. Here's the new precious thing. Oh, by the way, it's got a horrendous off switch.
Yeah, I'm gonna be the most freaked out of all time. But I will ask questions, as I found out in the fertility clinic we were going to, where they had a picture of Kyle and Jackie O. There's like just on the wall, just a big picture of Kyle and Jackie O. And I'm like, this is very strange. And I was just fixated on it. Like all these tests are happening. She's explaining like what the process, and I'm just looking at this poster. And then at the end, she's like, so are there any questions? And I'm like, yeah, I've got one. What's with Kyle and Jackie O? And then she's like, well, I was about to explain there's no such thing as a stupid question, but I think we've established that. And I was like, fuck, I'm getting roasted by the fertility doc.
Yeah. Hey, just pull your microphone. I just want to make sure we're not.
Like that?
Just slip. Yeah, just slipped inside your shirt.
Happy
So
that.
I know you're a hirsute man.
Hirsute.
Yeah.
Just not as much on the chest as you think. I mean,
Really?
I'm not like hairless, but I'm not like, some people just like
Yeah.
grizzled. I mean, you used to work with rugby league players. I can only assume that all of
Yeah.
them are fucking
No,
wolfmen.
Not overly, to be honest.
Interesting.
It's They were very comfortable taking their shirts. Would just getting changed. It's weirdly at Fox Sports, the change rooms, the old change rooms, you'd go in and there'd be like, it was like almost like the change room at a Just Jeans or something, where you'd have like little cubicles. But then when they renovated, the male change room was just one big, like almost like a locker room, and they just pull a curtain across. So there was one particular person I worked with who regularly just did not wear underwear, and after a show would just be chatting to you, just changing pants and just be. But they played football their whole lives. They don't.
That's
care.
what they used to.
Yeah.
You're on their turf, man.
Mate, the hardest was I've never felt like such a piece of shit physically as when Mark Gasnier used to work there.
Yeah.
And he'd be when we'd be going to do our tape our show, he'd be going to do the coverage for the Friday night footy or whatever. And so you'd often be getting changed at the same time as him. And he's the loveliest man and same age as me. And like nice, and he'd just be chatting. But then he'd just be like unbutton his shirt, take his shirt off, and he's still got a six pack. I'm like, oh, Gaz, what are we doing, mate? Have you heard of middle age?
Well,
Just can we let it go a little bit?
he's a former professional athlete. Like, I reckon next time you feel insecure about it, just hand him today's Wordle and just be like...
he was smart. He was doing a law degree too. Like he wasn't even a dumb one.
That's deeply frustrating.
Oh, it's so annoying.
This is how I picture it happening. You know what I mean? It's just like, man, that is an incredible physique, but spell onomatopoeia. Like, let's do that. And then they nail that, and you're like, well...
And he just goes, what's your favourite onomatopoeic word, Nick? Mine is bird. God damn it. Yeah, no, it was, that was a interesting time. But you try definitely to not be taking your shirt off with at the same time as some of the blokes, or just even not, just compare yourself to
No.
to the guy that you know that your wife and her friends all thought was a cute football player back in the day, and just like, well, I can see why.
That's one of the great things about being in comedy.
Yeah.
There's very few rigs out there.
Oh.
Like, you know, your wife comes to a show, she's like, man, that guy was cute.
Well,
Everyone's like, is that guy okay? That's the main follow-up question. Is that a character or is he just like that? Because someone should talk to him.
Oh.
Not me, though, for the love of God, but someone else.
Is he getting help? Does he have like a carer or someone who checks in with him regularly?
That wasn't a real story, right? Like,
who knows? Who knows? Mate, well, you would have seen too, because I credit you and Sam Kettler with basically opening up the open mic scene in Sydney. Because before you guys opened your room, which was Mug and Kettle,
yes,
that microphone's going again.
It's going again. What am I doing?
Mate,
is it me?
Clip it down a little further. You barely clipped it on.
I barely clipped it on. Oh my God, this is some rookie shit right here. Adjusting the mic. Now you're gonna have to edit more, and I hate that for you.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
All right, we're happy. Happy now.
Mostly, if I edited this podcast, there'd be a lot less of me. Because you edit your podcast. Do you find that, like, how do you find watching yourself back in moments?
Like, I get frustrated when, like, you see the joke after and you're like, oh, motherfucker.
Yeah.
And also just like when you say something that bombs, when you're the editor, take it out. When the other hosts say something that bombs.
Oh, that's staying in.
Yeah, I'm like, that's fine. I said something funny 2 seconds later. Leave it. It's a setup for me.
I find that I have trouble watching back to, like, stuff I do. Like, I have to for this, but it's one of the things is I'll always get frustrated where I'll start, like, watching, I'll be listening to the guests and going, and I start talking again, and then I'm like, shut up, dickhead. Let this person talk.
Talking over people? Yeah, see, I mean, like, it's because, like, with Flog Cabin, it's like the three of us. So, like, there's not really guests.
Yeah.
Like, at the moment. So, you're not really talking over anybody. It's just talking over some other person who's talking over you.
Yeah.
So, like, there's no hierarchy. Whereas, like, yeah, I got to be honest, Andrew, like, I feel like I'm getting cut off frequently.
Good.
Mid-sentence here. I got some real cracking anecdotes that you've robbed yourself of based on these incredibly rude interruptions to ask me questions.
Well, I also find that I sidetrack myself, like I've just done then, because I started talking to you about Mug and Kettle.
Yeah.
And then had a different thought. We've gone down that road. And so often, like in my head now, I'm like, okay, we'll steer it back to Mug and Kettle. But so often I'm watching it back and going, well, you never came back to that. That's terrible.
And that's the kind of cliffhanger scenario that keeps your listeners locked and loaded. They got to come back next week to see what happened about Mug and Kettle. Why does he credit him? Is opening up open mic comedy in Sydney a good thing, or should it have been more niche?
Well, the jury's still out on that one. I'm going to be honest.
Yes,
but
I like to think I kept a few incels offline for a bit.
Yeah. So when you did, because basically to set the scene, the open mic scene when we both started in Sydney was pretty much all booked lineups. And if you were lucky, you'd email and hopefully you'd get an open spot every however often on a booked lineup. There was no such thing as you can go down, sign up on the night or anything like that. What compelled you to change, when you opened Mug and Kettle? What was it about the model as you saw it that made you think, okay, we're going to change this? Or where'd you get the idea?
Well, look, it was pure self-interest because I wanted to do comedy and like I wasn't entrenched in any way, shape, or form in any of those other places. And I remember it was the Laugh Garage at the time. I had like a line you could call to get a spot on the open mic that evening. So I was like, oh, okay, I did this in New York. This is pretty similar. And so I called and they were like, yeah, we can give you a spot. And I'm like, that's awesome. When? And they're like, oh, 3 weeks. And I'm like, but I'm calling between these specific hours to get a spot tonight. And they're like, do you want the spot or not?
Yeah.
You know, a bit rude. And I was like, oh, fine.
Not the Laugh Garage, I remember.
I was like, oh, yeah, sure, 3 weeks. And then, yeah, it was actually Sam Kettler who pushed it. Because I was running pub trivia at the time. I went to law school, I graduated, wanted nothing to do with it. So I was running pub trivia. And he was like, so you'll know how to run comedy. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you know how to approach pubs. And I'm like, you just walk in and ask. And he's like, cool, let's do that. And so we went Glebe Point Road, one end to the other, and just went into every venue. And there were two that were keen. One was the AB Hotel, but they needed us to like fill out a form or something. So we're like, fuck that. And then the Record Crate was the other one. And he was just like some lunatic who was like, yeah, rock and roll, when do you want to start? And we're like, 2 weeks. He was like, great. You sure you don't want next week? And we're like, yes. And then, yeah, that was it.
So how then? Because I remember, I'm trying to think when I first heard about it. And it was like, and it was one of those ones where I was like, Rhett, would you just sign up on that? And then, but it was already one of those ones where I was like, I was probably getting enough spots at that stage where it wasn't like, oh, okay, I'll go down and do this. But I remember hearing about it from other people. How did you spread the word? Because it was almost a different group of people to who were doing the other rooms.
Yeah, I mean, I went down to like the only rooms I knew, which at that stage was like very few rooms, like Comedy on, I never know if it's on the Edge or on Edge.
Comedy on Edge?
It's Comedy on Edge.
Yep.
That's a worse name.
Oh, maybe it's the Edge. Because originally it was on the edge of the city. When it was at... Was it
Is that why it was called that? This
Yes.
whole time?
Yes.
I thought it was like either Comedy on Edge, as in like, oh, it's
Well,
comedy.
the audience are on edge.
Yeah. And have you seen those lineups? Yes, they were. But also Comedy on the Edge, like as in they're pushing boundaries. And I was like, that's a better name. But okay, Comedy on the Edge of the city. Okay, and it got contracted. Fucking Australia. We've got no time for sentences.
So that's what, because the original room I think was in Darlinghurst or right there, like right on the edge of the city.
Yeah, there you go.
And then they moved to what is now
The Chippo.
Which
Yeah.
at the time was, what was that called? It was called something else, and then it was the library.
Yes. What was it called? I remember that. Yeah, fuck, I don't know.
Don't remember. Yeah, but I remember when it changed to the library, and that was confusing because the theming inside was nothing. I mean, maybe they had some book wallpaper or something. But no, they didn't change the decor to make it seem more like a library. And then they spelt library L-Y.
Yes.
It's like, well, this is all sorts of confusing.
I always love when a business should fail and does. Like, you know, just like immediately, you're like, this is a horrific rebrand, the spelling's insane, I'm so glad you failed.
Oh,
Like, otherwise there's no justice. Like, this is a shocker.
okay. Start to lose faith in capitalism.
Yeah, it's just like, sure, I thought competition was the key.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? If you have enough capital, it doesn't matter. Let's not get into that. So, so we just, the people that I, knew from that was like fuck all people. Because I basically started that room when I started doing comedy in Sydney. Like, I think I'd done like maybe one other spot somewhere ever. And then, I think the word spreads because the sign up on the night thing is just how New York worked. There was like the two options. Either you call ahead or you go there on the night and you're guaranteed a spot, right? So that was just a copy paste from a more established comedy scene. And then, I think initially, people kind of mistrusted it. Like anything new, they're kind of I don't know about this. Maybe there should be some kind of referendum.
Yeah.
We gotta get to the bottom of it. We can't just make something new happen without some kind of parliamentary oversight.
Who's keeping the gate?
Yeah, nobody.
Yeah.
If you have handwriting, you can do it. Even handless people, like we have a pen, we'll write your name down for you. I can't say that we'll pronounce it correctly, but we'll give it a bash. And so we just kind of did it. And I remember the first week was maybe 11 people. And then I think the second week was 9. There was less. And I was like, oh, that's not good. And then the next week there was 25, and then it was never less than that.
That was
for the 3 or 4 years it ran.
So why did it finish?
Well, this is the thing. I've always been very, I guess in hindsight, you have to say self-interested in the sense that I just did what I wanted to exist at that time. So I wanted an open mic because I just needed to go up and do jokes. And then I wanted a kind of semi-pro, still free to enter, but booked because I wanted to kind of do stuff that wasn't around 45 other acts doing 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And then, I wanted to try and sell tickets, see how that would go, and have headliners, because I wanted to host these professional-ish rooms and have a professional headliner that I could watch and other professional acts. I wanted to pay my friends, right? And then, so with Mug and Kettle, we just handed it off. I've always kind of handed everything off. We did Mug and Kettle, and I think we gave it away to Tom Sanderson, because that's what he wanted to run at that time. And then it had to move venues because the record crate was crazy. Who would have thought people who, let two people in the street, like off the street, they come in, they pitch them an idea they never heard of. Like, can you start tomorrow? Like, these guys aren't savvy businessmen. Go
Do you
figure.
want to go into business with two strangers? You've got a crazy idea.
I still remember.
Do you want to start tomorrow?
When can you start? No, it was so funny because the guy running it was like a record store guy, but like into rock music, couldn't give a shit about comedy. For the first year when it was like packed, like 50 people, plus 30 comedians, from 7 p.m. till midnight every Wednesday, our payment was 1 free beer each. And oh boy, did he resent pouring it for us. Just that one pint, he'd be like, oh, all right, fine, whatever. And then the next, after a year, when we thought we'd established ourselves and our brand, we were like, all right, I think we're on here. Hey, we'd like $100 a week to put this on. And he was like, oh, fine, no more free beer. And we're like, we'll take it.
Far out.
And then I think it got to 150 at one point. But like the amount of money this motherfucker was making, because like he just kind of ran it. He was the only person who worked there. I think there was maybe one of the staff member. When we got there was a chef who was actually a Welsh plumber. I don't know how he ended up being the chef, but the food reflected his lack of training. And the beers were like $11 for a pint, which at that stage was quite a lot. And it was just this crazy thing, but it worked. And it had word of mouth around Sydney, which is something that's so rare because Sydney is like such a big, sprawling, enclavey city.
Yeah.
And like it was bizarre when people would find out, hey, you do comedy, you got to go to this place in Glebe, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, actually, that's my thing. And they were like, huh. Yeah. So that just got handed off, and then the venues had to move, and it just kind of lost its momentum. And other open mics had started by that stage, so it shut down. And then with the other ones, I just moved overseas and handed them off as well. Like Everly was run by Caution and Jamie Kirk for a bit. The Foresters became Standout Comedy, which is Reese Boyle, and like that moved from the Foresters to the Chippo. The Chippo needs comedy, mate.
Oh,
Bloody feeds on it.
it's but it's almost that perfect room down there for like a midweek comedy night. Like it's the right size. It's the dimensions, low ceiling. It feels like you're walking down into a basement.
Yeah. Like a proper comedy club kind of underneath the ground is always good. And the location's good. Yeah. Because like it's, around the city, but not like super in the city. And like there's parking, there's students, like, the share house mafia that, attend it now. It's funny, like I've only been out of the share house game for maybe like 4 years, but like, fuck me, do I look down on them now? Just like all these fucking people in share houses looking at you like they know how the world works. And it's like, fuck off, cunt. You have to wait for a bathroom in your own home.
Yeah, well,
your cutlery doesn't match.
That comes back. The wait in the bathroom, mate.
Well, look, I look forward to it. But so it just petered out. Like I think because it didn't need to exist anymore, and like now the sign up on the night thing. I think there's not enough at the moment. I do kind of feel sorry for people. Yeah,
I don't know if I feel sorry for people, but I do like that. I mean, I'm sort of in a bit more of, like you and I have been a bit more of a privileged position now where there's people that'll add, like on some of those more my type nights, even if they are booked, they can add, like they're more inclined to add me a bit later probably than...
You suggested you calling up, hey, it's Barney from Fox Sports.
No,
better find some fucking room for me, mate. I'm coming in with a hot new 7.
Are you suggesting...
I got 2 words for you. Doctor visit.
Are you suggesting that anyone in comedy operates on a telephone call? Facebook chats or Instagram messages?
Yes. I think that's how you know your age, because I'm firmly in the Facebook chat. Like, that's how I prefer to communicate, but then occasionally we get like a running order on Instagram and a group message. I'm like, I didn't realize that the groups were allowed on Instagram. I thought this was one-on-one.
You know what I'd love is an app that just combines all your chats. So it doesn't matter which way it came in. Because the amount of stuff I'm checking to see if anyone's like reached out to me about something now, I'm like, I don't.
Dude, I'm only 34 and I don't have children yet, but the boomer shit is just approaching like... I found hidden messages on Instagram. I'd never seen them before.
And they're hidden based on your preferences. And I'm like, what are my preferences?
Yeah, because most
Turns
of
out
these.
not to be called a cunt.
Oh really, dude? My preferences apparently I don't want to have sex with local sluts in my area.
Yeah,
and that is not my preference.
That's also in my preferences. Apparently, I don't want to be added to large group chats about gold trading or
They're rubbing us blind. We can't come. We can't make cash. Instagram doesn't know us at all.
They don't want us living our best life.
And some of them are people who've seen shows. And it's just like, hey, I like the show. Instagram's saving me from that, but it's showing me like, hey man, you still owe me $50. Like, I don't want to see that.
That's the like, I don't get the like I go in sometimes and it's like hidden message and then it's always 7 or 8 weeks later. Or the other one is I've got my Facebook Messenger that I check regularly for gigs and stuff, but then the actual page messages to the page don't get through to the Messenger app. Unless I change profiles. And so the amount of times I've just flicked, oh man, I've got a really nice message from, hey, let me know when you're going to, I saw you here, let me know when you're going to be back. And you're like, oh, that was like I was there 2 weeks ago and I could have used the ticket sale. And God damn it.
Dude, I was like in that being like, oh man, there's gonna be like nice messages like because I just did Adelaide Fringe and like, I never got any messages throughout the thing. It turns out they were just going to hidden messages. And I was like, this is gonna be nice. People being like, thanks for the show, really appreciate it. It was just message after message being like, I enjoyed it, sorry about the crowd.
Oh no.
That's what I feel like that's where I'm at with comedy currently. There's a group of people who really like me, but it is not most people. And it's certainly not the friends that they bring.
But that's, I think that's how you build an audience.
Maybe.
Like if you're walking in and you're sort of liked, but if there's people if you're not dividing a little bit of the room off, then you can be a bit take it or leave it. Like there's very few people that can walk in and have everyone passionate about their comedy. Or even 90% of the room are passionate enough to go, I will follow this person wherever I go. But that person who goes, these idiots didn't get it, they feel more bonded to you. And so they're more likely to come back and bring more idiot friends just going, these guys didn't get it either.
It is my absolute favorite to have people be like, man, I've really been enjoying the podcast. And I'm like, oh, yeah, please tell people. And they're like, yeah, I've tried.
Yeah, no.
Slow pick up on that one. Unfortunately, the cabin doesn't travel. But
I've had a few. Well, I think too the podcast, like the whole scene at the moment. There's just so many.
Well, that's what it is, right? I feel like the podcast is kind of like pornography, and that like it's just such a wide.
You have
breadth.
watched this.
It's just like there's enough out there now for you to get pretty fucking specific.
Yeah.
And like the chance of you and like let's say your 10 closest mates like watching or listening to the same thing without a recommendation is quite unlikely. But isn't it exciting when you do?
I find it like even myself, like because I always go, oh, I need to do this or what works, and then I realise like when you post something like, some of the like reels or whatever, and you go, oh, it's got this good number of views, but there's not that many likes, or it's got shares, but they didn't like more shares than likes. How does that work? And then I realised, like I just started to notice my behaviour. When I share, I very rarely actually like. If it's another comedian who I know will appreciate the fact that they'll look and go, oh, Barney, like that's when I think if it's a mate or someone I'm like, I really like that, I want to support them. That's when I think. If it's just some random funny thing I see, I never like it. I just go, that was good. On to the next thing.
Yeah. No, I think like the interacting, especially like both, like anyone who's like, they're liking, they're commenting, they're sharing. It's just like, man, leave me alone. Like this is a bit much.
The other one I don't understand. Like the commenting on some of it is. Like people, I only noticed the other day I was posting one of these on YouTube and I'm like, oh, fuck, that video's got comments. And you go in and it was a really nice comment from this person about, I really like this. And then there was, just scroll down like, a bunch of like the stuff I posted got comments. So I should check them because you know how you're supposed to like respond and it helps the algorithm and all that sort of
get the conversation
crap.
going.
So I'm like, okay, well let's have a look. And then literally the third one was this guy it was just on one of these short video things that I posted. It's just a half joke. They're nothing special, but I just put it up. This guy's just written mid-joke, ass delivery. Just like, what? You've taken time out of your day to write that.
Yeah, and like I love that. I will speak for every comedian. You will remember the bad ones word for word.
Oh,
Forever.
but
They just live in your head.
I also feel really guilty because I'm like, at first I was like, why did I keep reading after that first one? The first one was really nice. It made me feel really good about, okay, that was one of the comments on this podcast video.
Yeah.
And it was just, I really enjoyed this. Yeah, really, it was just a really nice complimentary about the podcast itself. And it says, don't worry, there's only 3 of us watching. We really like it. I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
You could have left the last line off. But then I was like, you know what? I remembered that was something I'd mentioned in the thing. I think there's about 3 people that maybe watch this.
Sure. I still remember a joke you made about, what was it, The Night Watchman?
Oh, yeah.
Being like, you're Australia's comedian most seen on mute in pubs.
Yes.
And
Number
I'm like,
one
I
with
love
the
that.
sound down.
Yeah. You've seen this guy, you haven't heard him, but you've seen him.
Oh, mate, the amount of people the amount of times people are like, did we work together? I'm like, no, you just spent a fair bit of time in pubs and we were just on replay constantly. So,
well, I mean, not to drag cricket into this, but what did you reckon about Cummins hitting the winning runs and not letting Carey get his century?
oh, you'll be actually excited this. I don't know which order I'm putting this out, but I just recorded an episode with Stephen O'Keefe.
Right.
Yes.
Because he just retired, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this, and my theory that I floated to him is that I reckon, because I heard the interviews, and Alex Carey said he was glad Pat hit the runs because he goes, at that stage I was so amped up, I was half a chance of doing something stupid and getting myself out. And I'm like, my thought is you feel like that now because you just wanted that you were so focused on winning the game that it didn't seem like it mattered. In a couple of years' time when you're retired and you look at your stats, your number of tests 100 and go, you know what, I could have had one more.
Yeah. Well,
because they don't come around, especially batting at 7. Or 6 or 7. I don't know.
I think
he's at 7.
7, yeah.
Yeah. So batting at 7, there's not a heap of opportunities you get to bat long like that, because if you're coming in and the score's been run up already, you've got to make it quick because otherwise they're going to declare and move the game on or whatever. So I think, in the moment, yes, relief, but I reckon as time goes on, I'll be like, that was a bit of a prick move, Paddy.
Well, all right. So my thing was good on Carey for saying that, I was just thinking about winning the game.
Yeah.
I didn't mind, blah, blah, blah. That's what you want,
Yep.
right? Good team player. But I also, I think Carey seems a little bit unconfident. And, to give him the opportunity to hit the winning runs, century, in, a real nice comeback, that's going to cement his mental state. And as the captain of the team, you should be aware of that. You should be like, yeah, I'll hit the runs, don't worry. Oh, I missed, what a shame. You get him.
My thought there would be it's not under 14s. These are professional cricketers. You're not there to make him feel good.
Mate,
there
form, bro. Every fucking, because I'm a big sports guy, all the, sports science and stuff ignores momentum and form and, all this kind of stuff. It's just, breaking down cold data. And I'm like, absolutely not. Mentality, crucial.
Mate, we literally talked about this, Socky and I, about how much of it's the mental game.
Totally. And I just think you get that century. Alex Carey, was that his first or has he got one? I don't know if he's got one.
Oh, I don't know.
Because I was surprised Cam Green had 2 or 3, whatever he's got.
Yeah.
And I was like, this one is a big one. This is an important one. It's going to be a thing to hang his batting on. It's going to cement his place in the team even more. This is the kind of thing you do for a teammate for the benefit of the team overall.
Yeah, but...
And as the captain, he should be aware of that.
No, I don't disagree. No, he's got a century.
He's got one.
He has 32 matches, 47 innings, 5 not outs, 1,300 runs, highest score 111.
Yeah.
He's just got the one. He's got 850s though.
Wow.
So that, it could have been.
Could have been 2-7.
2-7. Yeah. I tend to agree because But the other thing is like I know you're nervous, and you just want to get it done. You want to get the win because it was a pretty epic win. But the other thing is, once you're down to 2 runs to get, like, you back yourself in from that point. Like,
you'd fucking hope so.
it's like, what was? You've still got wickets in hand too.
Yeah.
It's not like yeah. I don't know. But
I was
the other
watching
thing
it
is,
and I was amazed that he was swinging for it. I was like, really?
yeah. The other thing is though, when you get served, like there's part of the instinct, the competitive instinct that kicks in when you get served. Just that nice bit of width outside of, I can crunch that through the cover. Like it's a bit of a reaction, almost just like you're through the shot and going, oh no, maybe I'm going to look like a prick here, but you can't bowl there to Paddy Cummins.
But he had the one before he missed it, and it was the last ball of the over. I was like, just leave it.
Yeah.
Let Carey get his century. Our our batting is a nightmare.
The other thing that blew my mind is they said they didn't know he was on 98, which, I mean, I don't know where the scoreboard would be at that ground. I know that the grounds aren't, like, it's not quite the same as here.
New Zealand can't afford a scoreboard.
Yeah, you'd think, like...
An Australian ground should be able to see it, but in New Zealand, it's just one guy holding up a sign.
Suburban grounds, you even wheel out the sign where they've got the, that you click the score across, like the digit.
Yeah. Now it's under 14.
Yeah.
Hey, Carey's a 98. Don't tell him.
Yeah, it was quite odd, but...
That's funny. Sorry, sidetrack.
No.
Cricket sidetrack.
Mate, I was watching it. Talk cricket.
I was watching it. I've been texting old men about it.
Yes.
Just a good old man opinion on it. Just like team game, get the runs, whatever, man. And I'm like, nah, I think he kind of fucked it. But
that
anyway.
wasn't the opinion of one of our old man friends, Trevor Crook.
Oh,
who sent me an email just titled "What a cunt."
And Crook's old enough that someone had to type that for him. That was Julia sending the email on his behalf.
I literally just did an episode with him, and we did it over Zoom and or over this other software I use. But he did it with his iPad, and so for the first half of it, it's basically just his head from the below the chin up.
Yeah.
Just on the other side of the screen. But
I've spoken to a parent on a video call before.
But you know what was funny was we were having heaps of trouble. He couldn't get in. Like he's emailing me, I can't. This isn't working. This isn't working. And all of a sudden, boom, he's just there, and it comes up, and I'm waiting to see his face pop up, and the face is Julia. She goes, "Oh, Andrew, sorry about the delay. I was at work. I've just got home and saw this morning." I was like, "That's the greatest." Summary of a relationship.
Of Crook as well.
Yeah. Oh mate, he's a unique individual.
He's of a time that is not this current one.
Oh, mate, he's a champion. Yeah, if you're listening, go back and listen to that episode because he did 13 midday shows.
13 midday shows?
He did comedy on the midday show 13 times.
What's the midday show?
Jesus, how young are you?
Look, I'm one of those people that hasn't. It's amazing that I'm here at all. Like,
You didn't take anything. You never had a sick day at school, did you?
Oh, I did, but I don't know what I did. I think I read a computer back then, so I was probably jerking off to no result. I was young. I just wanted to be part of the process. But like, a midday show, no. But I've not watched Australian. I don't have free to air TV.
I'll let you guess when it came on.
I reckon midday.
Yeah.
12
p.m.
PM?
It would have been in the 90s, and then so it was Ray Martin originally, and then Kerry Ann Kennelly took it over.
These are names I know. Yes.
Yeah. So, but it was on. Yeah, it was on
live audience, live studio audience,
live television.
So is this what Studio 10 was kind of trying to be?
I don't know, like, because it's a bit later in the day, but it was like, mate, it must have been going to late 90s because Ben Folds 5 had a famous incident on it where so the guy, what was his name? The music director.
Fuck, I thought you were saying what's his name from Ben Folds 5, and I'm like, I'm going to say Ben Folds.
Yeah, Robert Sledge, right? No. So the music director, what was his name? Jeff Harvey.
Yes.
Right, was the music director, but he had this beautiful Steinway grand piano that he had like played on the show. That was that was his instrument with the band, and he let Ben Folds play his Steinway for the for their performance. Anyway, so Ben Folds does the whole thing and then gets all rock and roll at the end, picks up the stool and throws it at the piano. And then they come back from a break and Jeff Harvey just goes him. Just that was a disgusting, immature display by a performer who's not up to it. And Ben Folds writes about it in his book as being a massive learning experience because he was sponsored at that stage by Steinway and so would travel and they'd have a piano for him. And then he lost that because of what he did. And he goes,
Really?
And the whole thing is this, he does this whole mea culpa about he was right. Jeff Harvey was right. He was a respected musician. I didn't respect the instrument. I didn't respect him, and it was a generous thing. It was amazing. It's amazing. Like it's weird to read because I vaguely remember the incident like making a bit of news.
Yeah, right.
When I was a kid. And
I like that.
Wow. So that must have been, the midday show must have been going into the late 90s at least.
Okay. And so was it like the kind of thing where host, guests, band,
like it was
like selling stuff? Was it like infomercially?
No.
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 So it was a variety show at midday.
Yeah.
That's just
So it's
how
like
much Australia hates doing things late at night. That's just how early we close as a nation. Let's do a late show at midday.
There used to be the Vizard Live used to be the late night show, like in the early 90s. So there's just more of that. There was more TV, money for TV, and that sort of stuff.
And Crook
people would watch it.
And Crook was addicted to the midday crowd.
No, so he did all of them. Like he did a bunch of Hey Heys and that, but 13 midday. Because you know how like you've seen Crook's material. Mm-hmm. Would you think?
No.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I love it.
There's a clip on my Instagram right now from that episode of him telling me one of the jokes he told on the midday show. And it's basically a Siamese twin masturbation joke. And I'm like, you told that on the midday show? He's like, yeah, no, they loved it. They brought the house down. I'm like, the world has changed. But yeah, it's amazing how much things have changed in that sense. But yeah, the midday show, like that was just
a gig.
Yeah,
that was a gig for us.
But there was an audience for it, and it helped your profile. It was amazing.
Bizarre, because when I think anything like on TV from like 10 till let's say 6 p.m., like 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., it's like just for people in hospital waiting rooms, like doctors' waiting rooms, dentists.
Yeah,
a tire replacement place.
I think that a lot of that's changed in terms of daytime television. Used to be, one, you didn't have any other alternative. Like if you worked nights or you worked afternoons, that was your TV you got to watch, was whatever was on during the day. Also, there was a lot less dual income families, I suppose, in the up until sort of the 90s, I suppose, when that sort of started to really kick off, the 80s and the 90s. So there was a whole period where there was a big chunk of Australia was home and
just hanging out
for
Trevor Crook.
Yeah.
I'm glad this bloke's back.
Yeah, you could have, of all people, Trevor Crook.
Yeah, I mean, it is a fair point, because like now, if I think about it, the TV I watch during the day is TV from other countries.
But it's all streamed.
Yeah. But like even, like sport, that's why I really got into the NFL, just because like it's on during the day in Australia, because like we can't really watch Australian nighttime sport because that's when we work.
Yeah, it's you can sit backstage and sort of on your phone watch a bit of a game and then go, I gotta go on stage. But yeah, it's hard to follow everything. That was when I was, especially like working at SEN, doing a bit of radio and stuff, when you're trying to, we do like that Sunday show we were doing where you'd sum up the round of football. But I'll have worked Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. I'm just like, man, I'm trying to keep up with all the storylines and everything, while also, doing several gigs. It was. Thank God for KO Minis.
Yeah, just a little cheat sheet. Just there at the back of the gig.
Also, it's hard too when that's like, the family all work, like the kids are at school all week and my wife worked all week. So weekends, like, you're home for Saturday afternoon. Why don't you go do something with the kids? No, I've got to sit and watch football until I go to work. Like it's a bit hard to justify.
I got to do some work.
Yeah,
right? I got to watch sport.
This is work, all right?
Yeah, I'm gonna need more TVs in the house. I'm gonna need at least 3, 4. Let's do some American shit. Had this American lady in a show one night that I was like ripping on, just a little bit of ribbing for the old Americans, as you do sometimes. And I was like making fun of her for kind of like, I guess it being like a bit basic, like America, like, like sports ribs, woo. And then she was like, I'm actually a philosophy professor at university. And I'm like, I've misread this situation. And then she's like, but we did build a room in our house so the wall could be a TV.
That's awesome.
Like they added a room purely, so this one whole wall was a television.
So her personal philosophy is enjoy life.
Dude, she was she was so funny. She was just like, yeah, I mean, like, why wouldn't you? And I'm like, that's a great answer for why isn't your wall a TV? Mine is.
Yeah.
It could be. You just got to dream bigger.
Why do you think I got this philosophy doctorate?
Yeah. I want that sweet philosophy cash to pay for, I can only assume, 100, 200 inches of 4K.
Yeah, that would be, especially like that's expensive. Like that's how much do you reckon that's costing?
She seemed to suggest it was also like custom. Like that's because I was like, you mean a projector? And she's like, no. And I'm like, that's so much better. Because that means like, there's fucking tradies in like bolting it into the fucking wall. And they're gonna have to reinforce the wall to make sure I can take the weight. So like, mate, surely like 50K to 100K.
You'd think so.
Somewhere in there. Like American too.
That's wow.
You reckon you get that Black Friday sale?
I wouldn't have thought. Yeah, I just wouldn't have thought. Like, where was she, the philosophy professor, at?
Dude, just
her philosophy was marry rich, I'm thinking.
No, he was like some kind of military guy. I got the whole thing.
Oh,
this is the thing with Americans. If you want to know anything about them, just don't talk for a bit. They'll tell you. They'll tell you every piece of information they've ever had about themselves. And she gave me the whole story. He's like, yeah, he's like kind of military. Can't really tell me what it was about, but the pay was good. And I'm like, oh, so he's like, he's CIA. So like on that TV, they're probably watching us right now.
Oh, wow.
Being like, is this motherfucker talking about me?
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
God damn it. Just like and subscribe. It's but okay, bringing it back to comedy.
Sure.
That is your style. Sort of you're someone who I've noticed, like I've sort of over the course of, we've both been doing comedy. You've been very good at sort of carving out a way to make everything work, to make it work for you. Like in terms of like, how did you like? So you were very big. You were early, in my mind, an early adopter into posting stuff online, making a real effort to do that. You also went with like wearing the tracksuit, you wear the same thing on like in terms of branding. Where did that all come from? Like where does that? Because I only ask because it obviously works, and it's just so far out of my wheelhouse that I would never think to go down that road.
Yeah, well, I mean, like the tracksuit was genuinely just because in the UK when I was living over there and working as a comic, I didn't have a car and I couldn't afford trains because they're very expensive. So I catch buses everywhere, and like they're not comfortable. So I'd just be in tracksuit bottoms pretty much the entire time, and I'd take the tracksuit top off to do the gig because I thought that was like a bit kind of like toy, like a bit kind of like, oh, people are gonna think I'm a character or something. Because over there, tracksuits are like pretty. It's weird. I think over there, like people would have found it more normal because people wear tracksuits. Whereas like here, everyone's like tracksuit. Like they need to comment. Like even in like kind of hipstery places like Newtown, if you wear like a full tracksuit down the street, people will just say tracksuit out loud, like some kind of weird word association.
Classic Australian wit.
Yeah, just like tracksuit. Like it's like involuntary. It's
I'm
like
seeing something I don't usually see.
He needs to know it's colourful. We don't like that either. Like anyway, so yeah, so there was that. And then I did this show with Jim Jeffries, and he met me in the tracksuit. And then I like took it off when I went on stage to do the thing. And he was like, you're the only comedian I've met who has a look until they get on stage. And I'm like, yeah, fuck, it's a pretty good point.
Yeah.
Just like...
What does Jim Jeffries know about making it? Oh.
It's just funny because like you just wouldn't... Like, I think other people could have said that to me, but because like I barely knew him, and like he was not invested like at all, and it was just such a kind of blunt comment that I was like, huh. Like I think that's.
But it's also coming from a guy who's very successful.
Totally,
and found a way to build his own brand the way he likes.
Absolutely, and like and a person I respect very much, and so I was like, but yeah, it was just the bluntness and just kind of immediacy and like how obvious. he kind of thought it was. That I was like, oh, okay. And the same thing with the posting videos. I did when I first got to the UK, I did tour support for Alex Williamson,
Oh yeah.
the loose Aussie bloke.
Shooter.
And he was, man, let me tell you, that guy is fucking famous. Like, he'd never done like a UK tour before. He'd only done Edinburgh, and the amount of times he got recognised, like people want to like hang out after shows. Like, it was like a whole big, like, he was huge, and like I was like just in awe of it. And he was like really interested in the fact that I did like stand up the whole time. Like, cause he mainly did videos, and then he like did stand up shows in order to
Make some money.
make some money, like have the fans come see him. And he was just like amazed. He was like, so what do you mean you just kind of do like spots? And I'm like, well, you just go around and they pay you. And he's like, oh, and like, and how do you get your own fans? And I'm like, well, if they like you at the show, then like hopefully they come see you at your own show, blah blah. And he was just like, oh man, that just seems like a really dumb way to do it. And it's like, he's right. He's absolutely right. Because think about this, right? You do a show, 200 people at the show. You're on with, in the UK, it's 3 other people. So there's 4 comedians on, there's 200 people, 20 of them like you. You say your name, you say your social media, you say whatever the fuck. And like out of that 20, maybe 5 or 10 follow you. And so you just got 10 people. And and your comedy got viewed by 200 people. Whereas like Alex Williamson puts a video out. And we put videos out at this point. Imagine your video getting 200 views. That would be the least viewed video ever. Like, and they're watching it. Your name's right there. So they know who you are. It's you the whole time. So you're like the only person they're interacting with. And if they like it, maybe they'll follow you. And then maybe they'll come see your show. And they can do that anywhere in the world, not just in the room that you're currently in. And he just kind of said it when like, we were driving up and down the thing. And I just kind of sitting there rolling around in my head and I'm like, yeah, this is insanely inefficient.
Yeah, it's weirdly, because it's not like I've ever looked at an Alex Williamson video and gone, that's smart.
Oh man, like obviously there's been some stuff happen with him subsequent to me working with him. But
you're part of the reason.
yeah. But
like
some of them were like, because I'd never seen a video when I started working with him. Like he was just completely outside my realm of anything. I'd never worked with him live. I'd never seen a video. He was like not one of my guys like at all. But then subsequent to that, I started watching a few. Like some of them are really good. Like a lot of them aren't. Like they're not for me at all. But some of them I was like, that's clever.
I remember years ago having a comedian who had a very good YouTube following to talk to me about like how often they post and that sort of stuff. And I'm like, I just wouldn't have that. And he goes, oh, don't kid yourself. It's quantity over quality. But that's what you got to do to just keep ticking over, which I don't know. I'm fascinated with guys who from the start know to treat it like a business.
Well, the thing with Alex, like just to use him as an example, I don't think he did it all. Like he just liked making videos. Like he wasn't into comedy. Like, you know, we lived together in Edinburgh in 2018 and like I showed him like the Bill Burr Philadelphia rant and like Norm Macdonald. He'd never seen it. And like he'd been doing comedy professionally for like
but also
7 years, 8 years.
That is the difference. Is like where your instinct is to do comedy because that's what you like doing. You don't. Your passion's not making videos.
No.
Your passion's the actual, and that's one of the things I think you seem to me to be having most fun in the element of the comedy, which is the live part where it's you're a bit off script. You're like you've got bits that you can go to, but you're playing in the crowd. Like if something weird happens in the crowd and you can play with it.
Yeah.
That to me, like, and I'm a bit the same. Like that's the most fun part. There's the live element's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
So then the video stuff for me sometimes is a bit like I know it's necessary. I know I've got to do it, but like editing my own videos and putting them up, it's.
I don't enjoy that. You can obviously, exploit globalization to have people do that for you for very low rates in Eastern European / Asian countries. Like you can run that. That's out there for you. Like there's a reason they make the sneakers where they do. But like, yeah, like I don't enjoy doing that. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I do, in the sense that like it's interesting to like cut a joke that you kind of see as like this live thing that you do in this order up into like the kind of the fast kind of TikTok-y, Instagram-y version where it's like the actual joke's like 2 minutes, but you can kind of reduce it to like 60 seconds. And like that's interesting to see like what you thought you couldn't lose, and then now you can.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh. But like, yeah, I like the live thing. Like I use the online to power the live. Whereas like, yeah, like I think Alex would have been, if he got paid the same
To do
to
videos,
never have
yeah.
to perform, he would have done it in an instant.
Yeah,
He didn't like performing.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
But that's and it's I mean it's a different approach, but that's I think part of not my resistance because I'm doing more of it.
Yeah.
But I feel sometimes a bit lost. Like, do you consume much comedy through TikTok and through Instagram and through that sort of stuff?
Yes and no. Like I think, just by virtue of being on the platform, like whatever social media it is, like you get a bit, but like, people are like, oh, I was watching this thing on TikTok, and I'm like, I never really start a sentence like that.
Yeah, no.
Like every now and again, like it'll be a comedian I like, or, there'll be something that will pop up that I'll consume, but generally I'm skipping it.
Yeah.
Which, is something good to remember when your videos don't get as many views as you'd like.
That's
Especially from other comedians. You're like, oh, that would have been nice if the boys got around me on that one. And it's like, no, I skip it too.
Well, that's sometimes too, you realise, like, you put something up and you think that, like, your friends and your comedian mates have seen it, and then they've got no clue. They're in their own world. It's like their bubble or their algorithm feeds it, and then they don't see it or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to miss everything. And so it's the same thing with sometimes, I've just got my head around the idea that you can put a joke up and then still do it.
Totally.
Live, because it got however, like, it might got a couple of thousand views, but the chance of all those people being the ones in the room is minuscule.
Tiny.
Yeah.
And that's like you're big with a very devoted following. Like, I mean, even now that I've done like some tours around Australia, like my own kind of tour outside of festivals, like I've been interested in the feedback where some people will be like, oh man, it was a whole new show this year. And I was like, well, yeah, that's why it's called something different, and I'm charging you money again. And they're like, oh, we just thought it was going to be the same thing. But it's great that it's the new one. And I was just like, because Australia, look, I've talked about this many times, like I guess like off air, but like stand-up comedy in Australia is so niche. And because it's like our profession and a lot of the people we hang out with, we don't see it that way. Like being a stand-up comedy fan in Australia is like being a cricket fan in America. Yes, they exist, but it's weird. And
You're
like
saying Australian comedy fans are expat Indians.
correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And expat British people,
Yeah.
to be more specific. If there weren't British people from the UK living in Australia, our live industry would be fucked. Like, they're just sheer percentage of audience they make up. But like, yeah, it's just not like a mainstream thing. Like, it's getting more mainstream in kind of weird ways, but like, people don't go see it. Like, if you go see it, it's weird. Like, I remember in the UK, people would go to their regular comedy club, and when I'd say that I was a comedian, they'd be like, oh, that's the one that we go to. Or like, you should try this one. Whereas in Australia, it's like, I do comedy, they're like, I've seen Carl Barron one time.
Yeah.
So like, the idea of you putting a video up and then people being like, I've already seen it, what the fuck? Like, they'd be like, oh yeah, I guess this is just what it is.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of times I feel like people walk out of comedy shows that they've seen that I've been a part of, and like, I'm their definition for what comedy is now, just because of a lack of other examples, is frightening.
I also think that it's a bit of vanity on our part, the fact that people remember our jokes. The amount of times after a show where I've had either another comedian get credited with my joke or vice versa, where an audience member goes, oh, I loved your bit about, and I'm like, oh, that wasn't me.
Yeah.
They're not even taking in that on the lineup.
And dude, we're not even capable of it. Like, the amount of times I've been watching a mate's show and I've got a little line like for a tag or whatever for one of their jokes, or I really liked something, and I'll make a mental note to be like, tell them how much you like that bit. And then you come off and you're like, man, great show, I really like what bit was it again?
But I do that all the time. Hey, no, there was something that, what was in the middle?
Yeah.
No, it was after that.
Yeah, it wasn't the start, it wasn't the end, it was in the middle.
And then they get the bit and you go, now I can't remember the tag, but I'll think of it and I'll text you.
Yeah.
Now, talking of putting stuff online, because we are getting
Sure.
the time, you have a special.
A comedy special, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, putting it in inverted commas is pretty hurtful.
No, I
Because
just-
that suggests it's not fucking special at all. It's like, this guy thinks it's special.
Well, it's just that they're everywhere now.
They
But
are.
You are like you. This is part of like one of the things I've always admired about you is you do stuff. You're a doer. You don't sit around waiting for anyone to make anything happen for you. You go out and go, okay, this is what I want to do, and you find your own way to do it. So the comedy special is this your first one you've put up?
No, so I did the one just before I left for the UK that I filmed. Dude, that's the funniest thing. So I sold it to this like American distributor, and it was like online, and it took a year, and like all this kind of shit. But I was like, oh, it's on Amazon Prime. That's fun. Like, it's kind of cute. And then it was also aired on ABC in Australia, like
wow.
the national broadcaster. But no one told me. Like, no one from the distributor in the States was like, oh, yeah, thing's going to be on ABC. The way I found out was that my friend, when I still lived in London, messaged me being like, congratulations. And I was like, my wife's not pregnant. Like, we're engaged. What the fuck? And then he's like, you're special. And I'm like, yeah, dude, it's been out for a year. Like, I thought we were close friends. And he's like, no, it's going to be on ABC. And I'm like, what? And he had to send me a recording on his phone of the ad.
Oh my God.
And
how do you enjoy victories? No one's telling you you've won.
Look, let me tell you, I don't enjoy victories anyway. I'm a miserable person to be around. But the favorite thing is that the promo they use is this joke about this guy who I knew naming their kid something stupid.
Uh-oh.
And it was like his brother. And that was the promo. And like, I don't say like the last name or anything, but like I say the first and middle. And like, you'd only know who it is. And that whole family, there's like 7 of them. They live in Australia. And I was like, well, this is great.
Big ABC fans?
Yeah. I was like, well, what a victory to enjoy. But it was a stupid name and I stand by it. So yeah, like that was that one. And that got sold to the ABC, which is very cool. And then I just put another one out on YouTube, like during the pandemic, because I filmed it just when I was leaving the UK. Yep. I was like, I've got all these jokes about the UK. I may as well film it,
Yeah.
And then
because it is a bit like it's a bit like a salad. It will wilt with time.
Totally.
It's over time, most of it.
And I think me specifically, like I don't know if it's just my own perception of my jokes, but like I really feel that way. Like there's people like Crookshank who I always think like their jokes are kind of funny for like a long time. Whereas like my stuff, like, because it takes a while when you film something to like put it out. And I'm always like, fuck, like, I don't know if anyone gives a shit about this.
You're very much, not topical, but it's not necessarily you're like, hey, so I saw this in the news today.
Yeah.
But there's much more of whatever's in the cultural zeitgeist at the time. You're commenting on a lot of the time on trends that are social trends that are happening, and often it's like you're someone who I'm like, because even when I do that, I always feel like I'm about 6 months behind it's like it takes me ages to get oh, that's a good thing, and everyone starts doing their joke about it, doing their joke about it, and it takes me about 6 months, right at the end of when it's going to be relevant, just to come in and I finally get the perfect joke and I nail it, and then I can't do it for about 4 weeks because it's not relevant anymore.
Dude, you should just put it out online and act like it was recorded way earlier. You'll be right. You'll be like, fuck, this guy's pretty good. But yeah, so this was the first one where I was like, I wanted to look a certain way, and like, I kind of had more input because the first thing you just like, I would like to film my comedy, please. And then you get someone who knows how to use cameras and they set it up and they film it. And then this one I was like, I'd like it to, I don't want to see the crowd at all. Like I never want to cut to the crowd, which in an edit is a fucking nightmare because the crowd is like your little safety, like, when you go between stuff.
You got to have a good wide and hope that you aren't on the wrong side of the stage.
Yes, you just see me transport every now and again.
Yeah.
You'll notice the 2 guys in the front row. Don't look at it too closely.
Jeez, he put that glass down quick and walked to the other side of the room.
Man, that guy in the front has aged horribly.
Yeah.
I think it must be 2 shows. But so I kind of came in with that, and had the guys from Newcastle Comedy Club kind of come in and be like, yeah, we can make this happen. And it was good. Like I was, I can't watch it anymore because I've just watched it for the edits and like all that kind of shit. But yeah, it was funny because like that show, I remember, my wife, we actually met she came to like my first hour at the Sydney Comedy Festival.
Oh, Jesus, you're not married to a fan, are you?
No. Like, I promise you, no one was a fan of this show. It was a pile of shit. Like, she was a fan of
so
me.
this is a despite.
Yeah, this is a fan of me, tolerated the show.
Yeah.
Absolute garbage. But, you know, I gave it a go. And so it was funny because, like, you know, she's seen that, and that was 2015, I think. Maybe 2014 even. And like, you know, she's seen me do like maybe 5 or 6 hours since then. And this is the one where she was like, that was your first show. And I'm like, thanks.
It's this. Unfortunately, it's the sad truth that you realise 10 years in is it takes 10 years to
Totally.
be able to put something together.
And if like you're not kind of getting that feeling yourself or from other people, like those are the people that terrify me. We're like, man, I tell you, my first hour, that was the goal. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing now.
Yeah,
and I'm
I
like,
know.
Jesus Christ. I don't know how you do that. But yeah, this one, it was good. And like I was happy with it. And yeah, it's distributed by these guys, 800-pound Gorilla. And it's like,
yeah.
it's got some views, which is cool. Like I think it's sitting around 50, maybe just shy of 50,000, which is nice because I really thought no one was going to watch it because as you said, I feel like we're kind of inundated with stand-up specials at the moment, which I don't hate, but
Yeah.
it's you know,
it's become like festival shows where like you want people to have access to it, but then you also want. It's like if we don't have the gatekeepers to stop the access, then you need self-restraint. You need self-awareness for people to look and go, is at like this is your sixth one, and this is the one where you go, this is what the one where your partner goes, this is your like this is your first one was really good. This is up there, like so. It's that thing of knowing. Like I think people can go too early with stuff.
totally.
Sometimes.
I mean, I'd say the first one, the one that was on ABC, it's a good half hour. That next 20 minutes, garbage. But that first bit is pretty fun. Like, you know, you can enjoy that one. But like, yeah, I guess that is it. You're going to put stuff out and that quantity over quality thing. It's just, there's this model now where it's like, chuck one out a year. That's
also,
what people expect.
When you get to the point where you're going, this one wasn't as good as the last one. Like, the whole point is any given year, I want whatever I'm doing to be better than the year before. Because otherwise, am I improving? So yeah, you want to be on that. You want to look at that one from how, like, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and go, "Oh, I'm way better now."
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it was necessarily bad or that you shouldn't have been. You've just improved, and it's like I look at even just some of the jokes I wrote like in the last 3 years and go, nah, could do better than that.
Yeah, but I mean, as you should, and like for me, it's nice and simple. There's the pre-tracksuit, there's the post-tracksuit. we're currently in the tracksuit era. Like,
Tracksuit. So is there going to be a post-tracksuit era?
Yeah, dude. Like I can't.
Because I was going to say, like you strike me as a lifer. Like, God willing, you and I, we could sit down in 25 years' time, in our 60s, and just be like, yeah, how's it all going? You still wearing the tracksuit? Like, that actually, I think the tracksuit will look good. Then there'll be a sad dip, I reckon, between sort of 45 to 55, but getting round to 60 again.
Yeah.
Because I remember as a gag one time I was hosting your room for you were away in Edinburgh, and I was hosting Running Joke, filling in hosting for you, and so I just happened to have. I'd been on a charity event where they did a theme night every night, and one night was Red Night. So I bought your that tracksuit,
the red Adidas Originals. I
wore the red Adidas Original at that thing, and then because I thought I've got this, I'm filling in for Muggleton. I'm going to go in the tracksuit, and I looked like a retiree. Like I looked like the guy who would hose off his driveway.
Yeah, I mean, in my head, you look like the person at the music festival asking if anyone had any ecstasy tablets. And everyone's like, pretty sure that guy's a cop.
Yeah. Look at him trying to blend in. No, I had that real feeling like, I should go, put on some, instead of wearing my sneakers, I should have been wearing a comfortable pair of slippers that can pass as outdoor shoes and just hose down the front lawn.
Yeah,
hose
slides and socks, bit of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that sort of look.
Look, I appreciated the homage. I like, 'cause that's the thing. Like I've fucked around with it. Like my favorite one so far was this guy in Melbourne who came to my show just because his friend said he looked like me at a music festival because he dressed up like silly for a music festival. Like, you look exactly like Daniel Muggleton. He's like, who's that? And he like came to the show and it was the first person who dressed up as me at the show. It happens a little bit now, but not as often. And so he came to another one and I was like, hey man, do you want to start the show as me? And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, how about I just announce as if I'm coming on and you just go on and we'll just see how long it takes for people to kind of be like,
What's going on here?
that's not the guy.
We're an off-brand Muggleton.
Yeah.
I know he's business-minded, but surely he's not franchising this shit.
Dude, I want a blue man group it. That's what I'm looking for. Just a red man group that is going around doing my jokes for me. But yeah, he lasted like 45 seconds. He just ran out of puff. Because I think that's the thing, like, you know.
It takes commitment.
When you do it all the time, like you do an hour, you don't really think about it. But like for most people, the idea of just walking up and talking to a microphone for a minute is ages. And so he just kind of was like, yeah, all right, that's it. That's it, go save it. It was good fun.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So what's the new special called?
Oh,
Where
yeah.
can people find it? All that sort of good stuff. And what else do you want to plug before we go?
Yeah, sweet. So the special is called White and Wrong. Daniel Muggleton, White and Wrong. You can find it on YouTube. 800-pound gorilla. It's there. It's the longest one. There's other things they've put up from the special. It's the one that's an hour and 6 minutes. I've also got a podcast called Flog Cabin with two other Sydney comedians, Tom Whitcomb and Andrew Hamilton. That's just, you know, it's like this if it was worse, you know, just a bunch of people saying some fairly crook things, but having a good laugh throughout. Join us in the cabin. Always room for you in the cabin, and we invite you to stay flogged up with us every single week.
This is what I'm talking about. The branding straight away with the
Mate,
taglines.
that was because we've become obsessed with the Wahlbergs in the cabin, and Mark Wahlberg has this thing, Stay Prayed Up, because he's got a prayer app that you can join for money. And so we stay flogged up, and whenever we go buy a Wahlburgers, of which there are a few, we do a little video out the front doing the sign of the cross and like stay flogged up. It's good fun. It's good fun.
Yeah. Like, whenever we go buy a Wahlburgers, how often are you, all three of you together, going by a Wahlburgers?
No, when you're on your own, I have to have my wife just film one in Byron Bay. Check this out. These are the Wahlburgers. I can't believe I'm talking about this on another podcast. These are the Wahlburgers locations in Australia. Surfers Paradise. Makes total sense.
Yep.
Circular Quay. Fair bit of sense, but bit ritzy. Manly. Total sense. Fourth one, Byron Bay. Why? Those are the four
he's got a
Wahlburgers
house up there.
locations. Does he?
Yeah.
Oh,
There's
I
a
didn't
bunch
know
of them
that.
that have that's it. And he's gone in and realised they don't let a Macca's in.
But they let a Wahlburgers.
They let a Wahlburgers in. Because, you know, it's just a niche little family business.
Mate, nothing little about that family. There's fucking heaps of them.
I know. Mate, thanks so much for doing that. Where can people find you online?
At Dan Muggleton on Instagram and TikTok, Daniel Muggleton Comedy, Facebook, YouTube, Daniel Muggleton. There's 2 free specials out there on YouTube that you can grab.
And you're constantly touring?
Constantly touring. Next up, Melbourne, then Brisbane, Sydney, and then that's it for a little bit.
Nice.
Then there'll be the national thing at the end of the year, I hope.
Beautiful. Well, thanks for doing it, mate.
Thanks so much for having me.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.